Hey, how you doing? This is John and RJ, and welcome to Comic Book Team Up. We're on John's Long Box, and we're on the fourth page. We're simulcasting, and sorry that we're late. I had a coffee incident. I made coffee and promptly spilled it all over the place, necessitating quick. I needed a quicker picker upper. I needed a Nancy Walker. If anybody gets that reference, how you doing, RJ?
I'm doing good.
How's everything?
We didn't, not too bad. We didn't really get to talk, well, because of John's incident, and I was late too. We didn't really get to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. So I was thinking, if you don't mind, unless you have a topic, I was being inspired by that Marvel 2-in-1 annual that I posted on X today, and talk about what we talked about last week, except we don't talk about really great runs, just things that we like, stuff that normally people wouldn't, comics people wouldn't normally run across.
Oh, so just like recommend like hidden gems, lost gems?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Well, what is it? I'll bring it up. What was it? Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 4 or something?
I have it open here. Just give me a second. No, it's a double-sized issue. It's number 75, actually.
Oh, it wasn't it. Marvel 2-in-1. 2-in-1 75?
Yep.
Okay, I'll bring that up. Oh, yeah. I remember this. Yeah.
Don't need to answer your question. I really don't care about the Olympics. U.S., Canada doesn't really matter to me. The Olympics is we'll just say it's an international PR event. It doesn't have anything to do with sports.
This is weird.
Vaz here.
Okay, here. Everything leads to eBay. And I don't want to use it from eBay. Oh, come on.
It might be on Cover Browser if you're looking for it. But, I'll describe it for people in case they don't know. Anybody first of all, just to let you know, for my channel anyways, and I think for John's as well, links are in the description for both John's currently published book that you can get and for the sign-up page for my book, which is Fade to Blue, just to let everybody know. There you go.
Yes, Sid, I was too busy cleaning up my coffee spill, so I didn't get the links. So send me the link, and I'll put it in everything so everybody can get it. Thank you for reminding me. Here is the link for my comic, Heroic Tales 2. It's for those of you who have no idea, it's an homage to like Bronze Age Marvel, like this kind of stuff that you're looking at right now. So, I find that 80s Marvel is probably the pinnacle of comics. And I know that we're biased that whatever came out when you were 14 is the best comics for you. I understand that. So that's what I'm going for. And RJ, if you want to throw in a link, I just, like I said, I was too busy cleaning up coffee.
I'll throw in a link for Crom the Destroyer. There we go. We're still working on it. We're on the last 8 pages now for the art, which is great.
Nice. I can't wait. Crom the Destroyer. Oh, I got Tony Grigo. Tony, what is the topic for It's Clobber Time Friday? My wife asked me because she usually makes the thumbnails, and I can't remember because I'm old man. So what is Friday's It's Clobber Time? And RJ, you're welcome to come in on It's Clobber Time, where we just, again, continue talking about comics. So the snowstorm for me, we finally got our neighborhood shoveled yesterday. I live in a small town in Suffolk County that is like, apparently it's the place. I want to say it's the place where county services forgot, but they still they still take my property taxes, but they don't put in sewers, they don't put in sidewalks, and apparently they don't shovel the snow. So I live like a hillbilly, but I pay like I live in New York. So it's the worst of both worlds. That's New York for you.
On the other hand, I have my own snowblower and yet refuse to use it because I like to shovel too much.
My wife is Canadian, and I joke that as soon as the first snowflake hits the ground, it activates her Canadian powers, and she's out there like, how when Bugs Bunny is like burrowing, she's like that with snow. She's just like whoop, parting the snow, like Buddy the Elf making snowballs or something. Like there is like a razor sharp line down our driveway. She was shoveling in the snow, after the snow, during the snow, but she refuses, and I don't blame her. She doesn't shovel the street.
You get someone suing you then.
Oh yeah, well, it's just like we're paying taxes, and then we got that Ring camera system, and all day long it's like, are they going to shovel around here? Are they going to shovel around? Are they going to plow around here? So, that's what I pay New York property taxes, but I don't get the New York services. It all goes to the schools so they can teach the kids about that imaginary third gender.
So I know this is one of the books that you love, John, Marvel 2-in-1, because you love Thing. Anyone who doesn't know, Marvel 2-in-1 is Thing and some other group or superhero, and they just have adventures together. And it's a one-shot usually for every issue, except for a couple of times when they continue on.
Right. They had Marvel Team Up, which was a Spider-Man. Every month Spider-Man teamed up with somebody. And this was Marvel 2-in-1, and it was the Thing teams up with somebody. I mean, when the Fantastic Four came out, the Human Torch was the breakout character, and he got his own spin-off series in Marvel Tales. Oh, no, Strange Tales, excuse me. And then that's the same. And then I think that was Strange Tales 101 was the first Human Torch. Strange Tales, it was either 110 or 111, I forget, was the first Doctor Strange. And then they split it, Human Torch, Doctor Strange. But then they slowly faded out the Human Torch. His popularity waned, and they replaced it with Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. But somewhere along the way in the 70s, the Thing, it's always the monstrous character that everybody loves. He's one of my favorites. He got a team up. And like RJ said, every issue was a different character. But sometimes the stories continued. Like the famous one is the Project Pegasus. It lasted like 8 or 9 issues. But every issue was like, Thing in Quasar, Thing in Aquarion, Thing in the Avengers. And I will say that, like, the first 4 annuals of Marvel 2-in-1 were events. I mistakenly thought this was an annual. I didn't realize it was 75. But look at that. That's glorious. Look at that.
If I remember correctly, because I'm looking at the cover going, okay, we got Captain America fighting in space with no anything on whatsoever, but I think they're in negative space, which
they're in the negative zone, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is some glorious I'm kind of at a loss. I don't know if I think this is George Perez, inked by Terry Austin. The heads are in the yellow. Yes, and this is them fighting in the negative zone. So the negative zone, they could get away with whatever crazy physics they want because it's not real. So like they could survive in space and whatever. Tony's trying so hard to drag us into politics. Tony, we're not falling for your crap. He's asking us about the State of the Union. The only thing I'll say about the State of the Union is it was a PR disaster for the Democrats. Trump played them like a fiddle. He asked them to stand up. Hey, we should be respecting the citizens over illegal aliens, and no Democrats stood up. They are just scrambling like cockroaches. But other than that, I don't want to talk about politics. The New York mayor asked for people to volunteer. Yep. Well, he didn't ask people to volunteer. He asked people to do it for pay. They kind of ask people every year, but the thing about this year is he fumbled the ball so bad, and then everybody was goofing on him that they needed 2 forms of ID to shovel snow. But the Democrats are mad asking people for ID to vote. Who's your favorite Human Torch, Johnny Storm or Jim Hammond? Do you have a favorite out of those two, RJ?
I'm more familiar with Johnny Storm. Only Jim Hammond, stories that I really know about are Invaders, which are the old from the 70s books. That's about it. But he's a good character, I'll have to say.
Yeah, I got to say the Human Torch. The Human Torch, obviously, they're both the Human Torch. How stupid. But Johnny Storm, just because Fantastic Four was like it's really weird because for most of my life, since 1974 till 2015, I collected Fantastic Four. As poor as I got, I always had money for a Fantastic Four. I never missed it. I love the Human Torch. I love the Fantastic Four. I will say the Human Torch is my least favorite of the 4, but that's still, I love the character. So now, just today, I was arguing with people on Twitter that the Human Torch should be bisexual. How do you base that? Why should anybody should be anything? This is like the biggest player who falls in love with the drop of a hat with women. Why should he be bisexual? Could you base that up on any facts or stories or anything? No. Just because you want it and you just got into comics 4 months ago.
Here's the interesting thing for anyone who likes public domain characters. So my book, which is Fade to Blue, which we're working on the last chapter of the 3rd book right now before we put it out. I originally was going through public domain characters, and there's a public domain character that is almost exactly like the Human Torch called Blue Flame. So just picture the Human Torch, but blue. And it's in the public domain now. And I thought, okay, I'm going to riff off of that and make a character. And I made a character that had something to do with Blue Flame. Originally, I entitled my book Blue Flame, and then it changed to Fade to Blue because the fire powers slowly decreased as I developed the idea. And it's still in there very slightly, but he never doesn't look like Human Torch or anything like that anymore. So I developed the character by itself. But anyone wants to do a Human Torch story, Blue Flame is a public domain character.
So it's a good thing you didn't use that, because Blue Flame is what we called people of the homosexual persuasion back in high school. You are so gay, you got a blue flame coming out of your butt.
I want to answer Alessandro's question. He says, what do I think about Scott McCloud's comic book manuals? I haven't got to read them all, right? Quite honestly, Alessandro, I got behind to my comic book creation reading, honestly.
Yeah, I have Understanding Comics, and I have this, I think, Beyond Comics. But Understanding Comics is phenomenal. It's a must read for people making their own comics. RJ, you recommended the Will Eisner sequential art book, so that those to me, and I went and I made sure that I got a first printing, because I didn't, I got it off of eBay, and I asked the guy what printing. The guy goes, "Gee, I don't know," and he had to open up the book.
One other thing that I've been looking for over the last couple of weeks, I don't know if Neil Adams actually published anything about this, or whether or not he explained it simply through interviews, because I've seen him explain it through interviews. We were talking last week about his theory of panel placement and how it basically determines the speed at which you read and all that kind of stuff. If anybody knows if any published work wherein he describes exactly his layout for doing that, let me know.
That, and Wally Wood has the 20 panels that always work. Wally Wood has a good instructions on making comics too.
Oh yeah, he's the one who I think it was him who established the bracketing of the panel inside a panel, which is the L that goes inside your panel. And it's like a rock formation, or you have an arch or something like that frames inside the panel, which is I'd love, if I was the actual artist, I would use that all the time.
Tony Eskins, what do you think about Absolute Green Arrow being a zombie? I couldn't be less interested in the Absolute line at DC. Like, I didn't like the Ultimate line at Marvel. It's weird. The only alternate line I actually liked was the M2 by Tom DeFalco, because it was like Bronze Age Marvel. But other than that, I want a good Green Arrow comic. And Tonic Ball, who makes this wonderful comic Saving the Universe, his thoughts on it, I'll take his word, because I didn't read them, but he's like, you need regular Batman for Absolute Batman, and because all it is reactions. Like, oh look, instead of Commissioner Gordon, you have Mayor Gordon. That's different. And, so it's not its own thing. It's a poor reflection, funhouse reflection of Batman, and so who cares?
I was thinking about this today because I know Wes over at Thinking Critical actually likes the Absolute Batman, although he's showing some of the art for it. It's like Batman with chainsaws on his arms and things like that. I'm going, what the heck? But my thought was, maybe what they're trying to do is to establish this new Batman, because when Batman finally goes into the public domain, they will simply switch over to the new Batman and use that, because everyone else will be using the other Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that's probably right. I got it. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but you're probably right. So now that they're setting up a non public domain version of their universe.
Speaking of hidden gems and Batman, one of the miniseries, well, it's actually an Elseworld book that I really love, is Batman Holy Terror, and the other one is Batman Gotham by Gaslight. Those are exceptionally, I love those books. I think Gotham by Gaslight, I don't know, the cover was done by Mignola. I can't remember if he did the internal art or not. It's basically Batman versus Jack the Ripper.
Yes, I remember that. Yes, I do think it was Mike Mignola, and if I remember correctly, it was Dave Stewart doing the coloring too, which is just a great team. Absolute's supposed to mean a measurement taken from an object reference? Yes. Absolute. Yes. You need the baseline to understand the absolute. You're absolutely right. How's that? Yeah, but did you get? I have a full run of this Marvel 2-in-1. There's some really bad comics, just but there are a lot of hidden gems. I will say, Avengers and Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 2 is perhaps one of the greatest comics ever made. That's the culmination of Jim Starlin's Thanos story. Back before even Thanos had the Infinity Gauntlet. This is before they even came up with the Infinity Stones. It was so good. It was the first time Thanos died, but it didn't stick. He got better, to quote Monty Python. Such a good comic. If you could think of any other hidden gems.
Well, I'm thinking about Marvel 2-in-1 the annual number 7, which is where he fights the champion. That I really love that book.
What's the number on that one?
It's annual number 7.
Oh yeah. I'll find that. Marvel 2-in-1 Annual number 7. 2-in-1 Annual number 7.
Yep.
Okay. Oh yeah. Geez, I haven't seen this cover in a long time. Let me find an image that's not from eBay. Okay, because the eBay images they don't work.
In my brain, I always thought it was a standalone book by itself. I never remembered until I pulled it out that it was a Marvel 2-in-1. Yeah, because basically all the champion comes to the Earth and declares that anyone who wants to fight him, come and fight him, see if they can take him down. And everyone he fights loses for one reason or another until Thing gets in the ring with him.
Yeah, and that establishes just how tough and is the word like determined? Is that the best word to? Yeah, like he just won't give up.
And besides that fact, he plays by the rules because champion rigs the game so people can't do certain things. Like Hulk takes off his gloves, so he's disqualified. Thor throws his hammer at him, so he's disqualified. But Thing, he actually follows the rules and won't stop.
Yeah, like I said, this I'm finding one of my favorite comics of all time, since we're going to talk about hidden gems. Yeah, I remember this. This was I'm trying to think. I think this was before Alpha Flight had its own series, so seeing Sasquatch was a big deal. If I'm thinking correctly at the time.
Yeah.
And this is like Frank Miller doing the cover, right?
I don't remember who did the cover.
Yeah. Tony says, have either of you ever read the 2-issue miniseries in the mid-90s published in Batman Shadow of the Bat created by Ted McKeever called Inchins? I have all of Shadow of the Bat, so I probably read it. Can you refresh me on what it was? It's funny because Chuck Dixon described the story and he said it was never published, and I left a comment. I said, I read that story. So either they ripped you off or it has been published. I never read Champions. I probably should have, but never happened. The early Champions, it was a weird comic. I'll bring up Champions later after I bring up this comic. I'm going to stop this. But RJ, have you ever read this? This is my single favorite issue of the Avengers of all time. Avengers 165. It's in the middle of the story where they fight Count Nefaria.
I have the ones around this. I don't have this one, quite honestly, John, because this is the story arc where he drops the city on them and stuff like that, is it not?
Yeah, he drops that building on them. Yeah, it's so good. Written by Jim Shooter, John Byrne art. It's so good. It's so the issue before this, Count Nefaria, he takes the original Power Man, the Whirlwind, and the Living Laser, and he amplifies their power. But what he's really doing is replicating their powers, and then at the height of their power, they lose their power, and he steals it. So now, basically, he's Superman. He's super fast, super strong. He's got heat vision and all that stuff, and he's just being a menace, just fighting, just for the sake of fighting. So it's basically the Avengers fighting evil Superman. So this was 1977. The evil Superman trope has been done to death. Get over it, boys. You ain't, you're just like edgy, like a freshman college student. You know,
I just reread my Avengers run from 70s and 80s about a year ago. And that's why I know I don't have this one.
yeah, this is so good. And this I got off the newsstand, and I literally didn't get the next issue for like 3 or 4 years. And the last page is the greatest cliffhanger of all time. He's just yelling at the Avengers, "Give me Thor! Give me Thor! You guys aren't a challenge." And he's like, "I'm going to wrestle the secret of immortality from Thor," because the wizard tells him, "Go ahead, kill us all. What are you, 50 years old? You're going to live another 75, 80 years, and then you're just going to die just like everybody else. You'll terrorize the earth for 30 years, and you won't be a blip in the history of the world. You'll be remembered as a bad, So he's just like, I can't die. I'm too powerful to die. He's like, I need to fight Thor and wrestle the secret of immortality. So he's beating the crap out of the Avengers, and then the last panel is like he turns around and Thor's behind him already in mid-swing, and the hammer is huge. And Count Nefaria is like, yeah. I was like, what happened? What happened? And of course, I missed the next issue because I was a kid at the newsstand. And, it took me like 2 years before I could find it. Back then, when you missed a comic, you missed the comic.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We need more evil Wonder Woman trope. Yeah. Well, that was what was the evil Wonder Woman in the Master Woman or something like that? Warrior Woman in the Invaders. Yeah, Gladiator and Juggernaut are missing from that cover. Yeah, those the big heavy hitters. John, what day are you going to do Avengers Assemble on the ring? I don't know yet. I'm going to probably just bounce it around, and whenever I have the biggest audience, that's what I'll stick. So, RJ, I started with Avengers 150, and I'm just doing one Avengers comic after the other once a week, for 50 weeks or so, because I just my favorite run of the Avengers. Are you a fan of the Avengers at this period?
Yeah, like I said, I never this is a little bit too early for me. So the spotty bunch of comics that I have are my brother bought. And like I said, I reread them like a year ago because they're great comics. It's really early 80s stuff, which is you get a switching out of a lot of the Avengers characters too. You get She-Hulk coming in and all that kind of stuff. So, and then you get George Perez doing his run, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I hate when it takes me to eBay. But any other comics you want me to summon up?
Really, I really love something which is so far out of the way for most people. But it's early Walter Simonson. You get to see him develop his style. It's his Metal Men run.
Okay. Oh, so do you have a specific issue?
Specific issue? I can't think off the top of my head. Let me do a little searching here.
Well, you're searching. I have this ready to talk about. But this, oh my God, did I love this freaking comic? This is Pat Broderick. I remember getting this, and the Captain Marvel comic was already canceled, and I guess these comics were already made. So rather than just toss them away or whatever, they put the last 4 issues in Marvel Spotlight, and it was I for the life of me I can't remember the writer, but the artist was Pat Broderick, and this was some of my earliest comics, and oh my God, I love this so much that I tracked down the earlier Captain Marvels. So and it's just great superhero space action. This is right around Star Wars came out. Oh man, just glorious. I didn't know Simonson did the Metal Man. Yeah, me too. I didn't know like I didn't know pre-crisis DC too well.
So basically around issue 50 is the center of his run. If you want to pull that one.
I'll get Metal Man number 50. Unless you got it up there, I can share your screen too.
I don't.
Oh, I remember these. Okay. This is the first one that popped up. Yeah, I could see the Walt Simonson lines. It's I could see.
I think for anybody who wants to study basically from primary sources when you're making comics. I love Walter Simonson. I think Walter Simonson is one of the best artists that ever work on comics. But to see him in this series, you see him develop what he uses later on in Marvel to actually make spectacular comics that sell really well. Metal Men never really sold well, but you get to see him develop his idea, because he used to do sound effects himself instead of having them put in later on, and he would make weird sound effects and all these kinds of things in his lines and his channel.
Braka boom, I remember that. Yeah. And then he started working with because of Walt Simonson's run on Thor, which, I mean, geez, how many times did me and you talk about that series? He got me to appreciate lettering. He worked with Tom Workman, I think was his main letterer. And oh my God, like he's my favorite letterer of all time. So good. And he would do he would, I think Workman started, no, you're right. Walt Simonson did his own like sound effects even in the Thor run.
Oh yeah. He made them part of the panels themselves.
Right. Yeah, Captain Marvel was cool. I didn't like him switching back and forth with Rick Jones. Yeah, somewhere around issue 30 or so, they had him and Rick Jones got like merged together. They did a Billy Batson and Captain Marvel thing, and he slammed the bands together, and Rick Jones was exiled to the negative zone. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that he would get eaten by a monster while in the negative zone, and we didn't have to deal with that anymore. The teen sidekick, I don't know. What do you think about that concept? I just, the only one that really worked was Robin.
Well, we kind of talked about this last week. When you were talking about the patriarch and how he has to think a lot because he doesn't have anybody with him. That, I think, is the crux of a lot of the reason why you have a sidekick. It's explaining the comic, because if you remember correctly, pre-crisis, every comic was a new story, an entirely new universe almost unto itself. So you had to sort of explain to new readers what's going on. And an easy way to do that, especially in early campy comics, was have a sidekick and have the sidekick get explanations of what's going on. So that's why it works.
Yeah. I plan on doing a story about sidekicks in a future comic. Why they're needed, why they're bad ideas, like all of my thoughts about sidekicks someday. So support Heroic Tales, and maybe I'll get around to telling that story. And Tony wants to know, who did Cosmic Adventure, Kirby or Starlin? Do you want to answer that, RJ? Because
I would say Kirby, quite honestly. I mean, Starlin, he's got a little bit too much 70s in him. I like to go back to Kirby. What's the line? I can't remember who said it. Yeah, it was probably like Frank Miller or something like that. I can't remember, but someone said when the astronaut that finally gets to the end of the universe, he'll flip over the page and see Jack Kirby's signature there.
Yeah, Kirby did it the best, and then Starlin. So no disrespect, and I don't think Starlin would be too upset that I said that. I think Starlin is stepping in Jack Kirby's huge footsteps, but I think like you could read a Kirby science fiction cosmic story and enjoy it for what it is, a grand adventure. But I think Starlin did a little bit more like navel gazing, and if that's your jam, then I think Starlin edges out. But because the Warlord was a grand 30 issue story that culminated in a wonderful paradox. So I think he worked on a scale that as far as multi-issue stories that Kirby didn't do. I think Kirby was more like, this is a comic, let's get this comic out. I wonder if Kirby just had such an imagination that he was just like, nope, I got to move on to my next thought. But so of course Kirby, he invented it all, and then Starlin is just right there. I don't want to say on his coattails, because that's a mean way to put it, but he's just right there following him along, smiling and happy to do it.
I think that Kirby's best art is the cosmic art that he does. Tries
Yeah,
to do fantasy with Commandi and a little bit of Conan and stuff like that. Never really worked. Devil Dinosaur, it never really worked for me, but the intricacy of what he can put into the cosmic stuff is just makes the entire thing shine.
yeah. I want to say hello to George. Good to see you. Uh, yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Kirby, for me, my favorite Kirby art. As much as I love the Fantastic Four, I really think Kirby, there's something about Thor. If you get to like Thor 150 to the end of his run, nobody talks about Kirby's Thor run as much as they should. It's so good. It's spectacular. And I think Stan Lee gave him a little bit more leeway on Thor. You know, it's so Kirby. But I think Kirby's his best writing is in OMAC, the original OMAC. It is like eerie. Every issue is based on like a sci-fi philosophical idea. And it's almost supernatural how he's predicting right now.
Oh yeah, oh definitely.
Early 70s, and he's predicting 50 years in the future.
When these things started coming online about people smashing sticks and yelling and all that kind of stuff, this is the Rage Room from Kirby's OMAC.
Yep. He's talking about. I mean, I don't even want to get into the Epstein files, but he's calling that out in OMAC. You were the one who got me to read OMAC because you said, "Oh, it's your favorite comic of all time." But you were talking about the Kirby run. I mean, you were talking about the John Byrne run.
Yeah, but I have Kirby stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to read the Bird run. I have it already, but I read it years and years and years ago. This is an interesting question, RJ. This is a question for you. What do you think Aristotle would think of comics?
Let me put it this way. There are things about it he would like and things that he would definitely not like. What he would definitely not like is the fact that they're episodic. Although they have, contained story arcs that have actual beginning, middle, and end, that gives it some saving grace. But he doesn't like episodic stories whatsoever. That being said, the fact that ancient Greeks use visuals in their own way, that's why the plays especially for the Athenians worked so well, because they combine storytelling with visual. And he would very much appreciate, I think, that part of that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, I could see him liking it because Greek mythology to me was always a comic book. Like what would he? I don't know. I think the Greeks, if they had the technology or whatever, I think that would have been really fun. Somewhere in an alternate timeline, the Academy is cranking out. Just imagine that, like Aristotle with the Jack Kirby cigar, and and all the people like a Marvel bullpen. That's kind of funny. It's kind of funny thought. I'm going to be thinking about that thought for a long time. Thank you. I love when people give me cool ideas. Don't forget Socrates and Plato. There you go.
We were talking Captain Marvel and cosmic stuff, and I know we talked about this before, but really good run that is underappreciated and a lot of people don't know about of comics is Quasar. Mid 80s, late 80s Quasar. That's great stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You're absolutely right. The if Quasar, and I'll also say the Ron Lim Silver Surfers was so good, so good. But I think the Quasar. I think they had a better. Quasars are coming up next. I should put Marvel, because I think he was a lesser known character, and he really didn't have any backstory, so they were able to really, do whatever they wanted with this character.
And it was a time in Marvel where they didn't have too many, like you said, the Silver Surfer was starting to have his own series at that time, but they weren't focusing on very many cosmic characters at that time until I think Quasar was the first kind of breakout where they continued on in a regular series besides Silver Surfer. And then you have, after that, of course, you got Infinity Gauntlet, and that continued on into its own series after that with Warlock and all those kind of stuff.
Yeah, quite. This was a fun series. Yeah, I I just remember the first issue. It made me think. In the first issue, you had Quasar. He put on like an air tank and he flew to Uranus, the planet Uranus, and it took him 4 years. So it explained why he wasn't seen in Marvel in a while. And I just remember like he used some sort of trajectory system and he blasted off, and then he basically used his powers to put himself in suspended animation. And he went there, and then when he got there, he upgraded his quantum bands because that's where the aliens were that had the technology. But I thought about that a lot, just floating in space for 4 years, you know. And what year was this comic? I can't read it in this small. I don't. Oh, 88. So 88. So I was just finishing up high school. I just remember thinking about that. It's like such a terrifying. Like, I'm gonna get a little weird right now, but every once in a while, like if I can't sleep or if I'm whatever, like, you know, the world is getting to you, I just like my relaxation technique is I just think about like floating in space. You know what I mean? Like not near any planets. You're just literally floating in the absence of anything. Like you're in space. And then I think about like there's Neptune. There's this big, so now I'm orbiting Neptune, this huge, inconceivable alien world that's close to us, but yet so far away. And that's all because of this comic. I don't know. I guess I'm a weird guy, but that's like like if I'm driving on the highway and I don't really have to, you know, I got the next exit 72 miles. Like I'll like focus on stuff like that. Maybe that's why I crashed into trees and broke my neck, because I'm thinking about.
Okay. I just shared a screen with you, John. Have you ever heard of this book before? This was an interesting book that came out. It was a 4-issue miniseries of graphic novels.
No, I see this. I never got this.
They used some really weird color choices. This is the first time that I think they wanted to play with color in DC Comics in this way. So basically, he's from the future, and you follow him through this adventure in these 4 miniseries. But it's an interesting read for you know, oddities from DC Comics. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, wow. I remember this. I never got it. So here's one of the rare comics that came out that I just totally missed. Yeah. Okay, you recommend this?
Yeah, well, I remember, I haven't read it in a long time, but I remember liking it when it came out.
Yeah, cool. We got some interesting comments over here. We got Zach Tan. One idea is that the teen sidekick has a stronger power than the mentor, a power that could make them dangerous without guidance, which causes some tensions. Yeah. I mean, like Damian Wayne, I kind of like the idea. At first, I was like so angry that they came up with Damian Wayne. Like, but you know, over time, I guess Batman could have a kid, and he's a psychopath, and Batman has to teach him morality. Like, so Batman is containing his dangerous nature that of the Ra's Ghul family. I like that. I do like sometimes like a baby scorpion. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard like a baby scorpion is super dangerous because they can't control the venom. They just inject it all. Like a regular scorpion will like save some. I'll use some venom for it. Like maybe I'll get attacked by a second person or something. But a baby scorpion has no control, so you get the full dose. So it's like a kid's superhero doesn't have the ability to control their abilities, and then of course, you know, going through puberty and stuff like that. So yeah, that is like you always talk about that, like your character Kit Fox, the Jays. He's a mentor to people, like it's a training program. To me, that works as a like, okay, you're gonna do it anyway. At least I'll minimize the damage. At least give you proper training, like an apprentice. That I like as sidekicks. But like, hey, Bucky, here's a machine gun. We're gonna go kill some Nazis. You know, you have no powers whatsoever. That's totally irresponsible. John, what's your quintessential cowboy western comic? Mine would be a split between Mobius's Blueberry and John Albano's Jonah Hex. Both of them are great comics. Do you read it? Have you read it, either of these?
I read Jonah Hex. I have a lot of Jonah Hex. That was We originally inherited our comic collection from our uncle who loved westerns, so we had a lot of Jonah Hex, and I really like the Keith Giffen Jonah Hex Goes to the Future, which just called Hex. That's another really interesting run of comics. It kind of took the character in. I don't know if you ruined the character, but at the same time, I really like that, and I really have a lot of Jonah Hex. The covers are spectacular. They are almost every Jonah Hex cover is a master class in how to create a cover.
I will say, if I think Mobius's Blueberry is one of the first Western comics I ever read, because Marvel put out these Mobius graphic novels that I was hooked on, with the Inkle and the Airtight Garage and everything like that. And then Blueberry, I was like, what is this? And it's a totally different art style, and it's a straight up Western. I was waiting for space aliens and magic crystals and stuff like that. Nope. It's a full on Western, and it's excellent. I bought it, so I had to read it. I was disappointed once I found it, but that was like the first Western I ever read. But Jonah Hex, I'm reading now as an adult. DC's Jonah Hex comics are really good. Really, really good. Read DC Special #1 featuring Jonah Hex. It's The Death of Jonah Hex. It's one of the best comics you will ever read. Spoiler alert, Jonah Hex died 100 years ago. Such a good comic. Michael Fleischer was the writer. Well, Hercules. Oh, they was talking about Greek. Yeah, the Labors of Hercules would be a great comic, and I'm surprised there isn't a Greek mythology accurate comics. I will recommend. I had George O'Connor on my channel. He through first 10 books. He has hardcovers called The Olympians. He did 12 issues, one for each of the Greek gods, and it's the Greek myth. It's absolutely excellent. To me, it's like a resource. It's made to be like kid friendly, because let's face it, some of the Greek myths aren't Greek friendly. And then it has like teacher's aids in the back of the book. So good, so good. Oh, this was a great run.
Peter David Supergirl, I really loved.
This was a good run. Did you ever read Fallen Angel?
No, I don't think I have.
Fallen Angel is, DC unceremoniously took this character, Linda Davers, and swapped her out and replaced her with the originals. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Fallen Earth Angel version of Supergirl that Peter David really liked. So Peter David made a continuation of that and called it Fallen Angel. And
because if anyone doesn't know, this Supergirl is not the actual Supergirl that's from Krypton. She's basically a Proteus character. If you know Proteus from Legion of Superheroes, Proteus character that was created on an alternate Earth that was destroyed, where Lex Luthor was trying to save the entire Earth, and he created this clone Proteus thing, which developed from Superman's powers and made it into Supergirl, and then she had to escape to our universe because the entire planet was just going to be destroyed. And again, she gets, I can't remember why, but she gets almost destroyed on our Earth, and she gets sent to live with Ma and Pa Kent for them to raise her again and try to bring her back to some kind of normalcy, to be an actual human being.
Yeah, it was a really bizarre series. There was 3 different Supergirl characters throughout the course of this series. The Earth Angel, the Proteus one, and then the Kryptonian one. Because Marvel, DC editorial, they really screwed this character over, if you ask me, with the inconsistency. But it was with Peter David. Great writer. Didn't he just die last year?
I'm not sure. But yeah, I like this character because it was going back to, it was a new character, but from an alternate universe, so they could fudge it with the Supergirl, because the actual Supergirl had died during Crisis. So they brought in a new Supergirl, and she's basically a teenager. So you're going back to a Supergirl. You never really get to see Supergirl as a teenager. A little bit within Legion of Superheroes, with back in the 60s, early 60s, but that's about it.
Here we go. Ryan Banks has a fun comic, an all age comic that I would say like is up there for like the Super Friends type of fun comic. Solo Legion. But he's asking, RJ, do either of you have stories of superheroes in space? And if so, do you study and account for space physics?
I have no space stories, quite honestly.
You have no plans for cosmic characters zooming around Jupiter and
No, my stories are all based around pocket dimensions, basically like which is Irish mythology pocket dimensions, as in you go through a grove of trees and all of a sudden you're in a space that no one else can get to.
I love that stuff. I can't wait to read all that stuff, RJ. So much fun. And Brian, I have plans. I just wrote a story that of a character. They're all going to his funeral, and he started out in the late 30s, went through World War One and two, not one rather, World War II, Korea, and all that stuff, and went into space because in the Silver Age everybody was going to space, and it's just everybody talking about his life. I don't know. Poor Renzo's gonna have to draw like 100 superheroes. so you'll see some of my space stuff. And the fun part about space physics is you could pick and choose whatever you want, because if you're traveling with space aliens, they can bypass physics, right? But I almost spoiled it. You'll see someday. You'll see. The story's written. Just how long will it take to actually get drawn and published? Let's not forget Greg Capullo drew Quasar. That's right. Then he chose Her. Right. For those, you remember Her, right?
Her is the female version of him who became Warlock. I have the.
Well, you assume Her's gender. Yeah.
I have the original run of Fantastic Four, where both of them are first appearance.
Yeah.
As her and him.
Him became Adam Warlock and she became Kismet.
Yes.
Yeah. That's funny. Why doesn't she become like, instead of Adam Warlock, why doesn't she become like Eve Witch? Yeah. Because that's a horrible name, Eve Witch. Or Sandwich. She could become Samantha. Become Sandwich. Did Marvel buy Malibu Comics just to get their color technology and then did nothing with it? That's the story that I heard. And I don't have any contrary evidence to say otherwise. But, yeah, Marvel bought Malibu Comics when Malibu Comics had Men in Black, Prime, Ultra Force, and then squashed it. I don't know. I don't know. Do you know anything that I don't know?
Besides the fact that, well, they did use their color techniques.
Right.
That's why they bought it, and they actually incorporated it into the Marvel Comics. So it was worthwhile for them to do so, but then all those characters just got shelved.
Yeah. You're like the third person to ask me about Dead Gods. I should check that out. I got to check that out. Omnipro, would you mind emailing me at johnslongbox@yahoo.com? Do you know anything about this? I keep hearing about this. Yeah, so I it would be, if you could email me, and because I'll remember now when we talked about it, but then when I'm doing stuff after, I don't remember. Oh wow, there's a.
I Love Justice Incorporated, Denny O'Neil and Joe Kubert.
Yeah, that's a blast from the past. Yeah. What year?
I've never read any of the new stuff that they have put out to the last, I don't know when. There's like 20 years ago, probably now, but this original stuff, I love Joe Kubert, and he's basically an assassin.
Oh wow, Joe Kubert and Al McWilliams. Wow, look at that, 1975. Yeah, Joe Kubert liked like his man stuff. Like he wanted like man fighting dinosaurs and monsters, or struggling with knives and guns. Tough guy stuff.
That reminds me of another one I'll pull up right now, John. I gotta have to search for it.
Sure.
Let me see.
I'll bring this down.
Remember the name.
What do you think about the mythological figure of Medea? I like Medea. She ended up getting screwed over by Theseus, right? Theseus said he was going to marry her and stuff like that. She helped him fight the Minotaur, and then took off, and then she ended up killing her own kids because she was that she had with Theseus. Did she end up marrying? No, I'm thinking of somebody else, because I think Theseus rejected like two different women, and the second woman ended up marrying why can't I think of his name? Dionysus. Yeah, Medea. Like, I felt bad for her, but then when she killed the kids, then I'm just like, there's nothing that you got screwed over. That's not the kid's fault. She was done dirty by Jason. Was it Jason? Yes, it was. Was it Jason or Theseus? Who was it? Yeah, was it Jason? Because Jason was the Argonaut, the Golden Fleece. I forget. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is Jason. Age of Braun was a good introduction to the Trove. Too bad it never finished. Yeah, I love that series. I love that series. I think he's doing it online, but I don't know. I haven't looked for it online. I'm not reading comics online. Crystal and aliens are usually harder under. Yeah, Crystal. Yeah, under. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Vaz is reminding me that Mobius, his real name is Jean Girard. So he does like more realistic stuff under Jean Girard, and then Mobius is his funky heavy metal wacko-do psychedelic druggy trippy stuff. Absolutely right. Yeah, I remember Supergirl. She was dating Lex with long red hair. Yes, she was dating Lex Luthor's son, right? Alex Luthor. Oh, here we got. There we
Anybody,
go.
anybody really likes Conan the Barbarian from Marvel and has the entire run, nothing new to read, go read Thanagar.
Yep, I remember this Throngor. Yeah.
He actually this is based off a novel series as well.
Oh, it is.
If anybody wants to go read them.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just a Marvel made up, like, hey, we got a barbarian. Let's throw out another barbarian. There's novels?
Yeah, there's a pulp novels from this character as well. But Marvel actually, I think, played around with this character, and you see the development of a lot of stuff that you'll see in Conan later. There's some really interesting stuff going on with color and how they produce the story. If you're looking for like panel layout and all that kind of stuff, if you're interested in that kind of thing, this is a good book, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yep. Ed Bean's the art in Supergirl. You're absolutely right. The art in Supergirl was outstanding. Based RJ says space isn't real. There's no space.
Although I can, going back to that cover we just showed for Supergirl, I can remember recreating that cover. Like I would draw it one for one because I used to just try to freehand draw, one for one comic covers. That was one of the ones I did. I really loved it.
George Morales says, even though I think he's a great artist, I almost thought he was the kiss of death for comics because every project he was on, the comic got canceled within a year. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Ed Bean? Or who Ed Baines? Who are you talking about? In my opinion, Supergirl was never handled better than the 90s animated series and the Michael Turner, Jeff Loeb miniseries. Those were good runs. The animated series, which I call the Diniverse, was perhaps the best portrayal of all DC characters. Supergirl, Birds of Prey, Gen 13 all got canceled after he took over the art. Who are you talking about?
Birds of Prey was a good series.
Yeah, Birds of Prey was fun. Yeah, people don't realize that Chuck Dixon was the creator for that. Eve Witch is a good joke, John. Thank you. Sometimes I'm smart. Don't forget Ex Mutants, New Humans, and Dinosaurs from Malibu. Oh, I didn't realize they were from Malibu. Oh, okay. I forget. Oh, hi. There's no way I'm pronouncing that, but hello. How are you? Jason? I hate Medea nonsense. I don't know why blacks like cross-dressing so much. Oh, Madra. I thought you were talking about Medea, or are you goofing on me? Yeah, that Medea character. Oh my God. I what's his name? Tyler. I can't stand anything about it. Not
DC. I brought this up before, but I think it was Malibu and the X Mutates that had the most, let's just say, campy selling. We want to sell a comic, so we're come up with a gimmick. So what they basically did was create a comic, and then they had someone shoot a revolver through the middle of the stack of comics before the stack would be sent out. So they each had a bullet hole in the middle of them going through the entire comic.
Look, I'm being corrected. It was Jason, not Theseus. Okay. Theseus screwed over another girl. Was it Arachne? I forget. Theseus screwed over. A lot of these Greek heroes screwed over girls. Can't tie them down. They got quests to go on. RJ, from what I said, Buddhism is pretty much the Gnostic version of Hinduism. Oh, man. Anything you want to say about that? That'll
I'll go with John Paul II and say Buddhism is not an actual religion; it's a philosophy.
Medea was not good enough for him, and when he became hailed as hero, Jason's hubris cost him everything. Yep. Throng or panties. Well, you got to buy the comic and find out. RJ's not going to tell you everything. I just read the new adaptation of Thundar. Just one issue out so far. It was not bad, but also not great. I like the old. There's a Thundar comic. Oh, you're talking about Ed Baines? Yeah, he's a great artist. I guess he just they bring him on to like revamp Dying series, and it was just too far gone. Yeah, Tyler Perry, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. I'm just not interested. And then he showed up in like a Star Trek, big fat guy, and I'm just like, why would you be big and fat in Star Trek? Like it just in the future, everything is like in the Star Trek universe. If you watch the very first pilot episode, with the first Captain Pike, and you see the transporter operator has glasses on, and then they cut, and when they come back, he doesn't have the glasses. It's actually a mistake. And Gene Roddenberry said that there are no physical ailments in the future. So, like, I don't know how that. I think it only went through if you get the uncut version. But he like had to explain to everybody, like, in the future everything's corrected. There's no glasses. There's no like imperfections. People have full sets of teeth. Nobody's overweight because they figured out how to fix all that stuff. So why would Tyler Perry and that other fat woman, be in the teaching at the Starfleet Academy? It just drives me nuts. Like, there is no fat except it's in the future because there's no fat people. There you go. I pontificated on RJ.
Well, when you can go through a transporter and see, here's the thing: you get into Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Captain Picard and I can't remember who was with them go through the transporter and get turned into kids.
Right.
Yeah, you can pretty much just become immortal and never have any ailments whatsoever.
Right. That's one of the things that they did is they scanned you, and while you were in the stream, they beamed out diseases and biological infections and stuff like that. I still think that the transporter was way too powerful, and it shouldn't be in Star Trek. Jewel is going to get me in trouble. Yeah, Dynamite restarted the new Thundar series. It was on shelves last week. I just figured it'll turn modern audiences into future issues. That's what they do. They hook you in, and then it goes woke. I was a big fan of the cartoon Gargoyles, and I missed a couple of issues, so I haven't read it yet. So I had to so I got all 12 issues, and then I got number 2 that I was missing, and then I read them all. And I got to say, there was a little bit of wokeness in it, but it wasn't bad. There was one issue that was unbearable, but I had already bought them, so I had to continue reading. But if I was buying it monthly, I would have dropped it But that's what they do. They're really in for 5 issues, and then they introduce the transgender lesbian midget. Oh, this is a fun series.
I love Blue Devil.
I love the art. Paris Cullins. So he's such a fun artist.
And the concept was one that I thought was really fun as well, because basically, again, anybody who doesn't know, he was a stuntman who basically put on what was a low-powered, let's say, Iron Man suit, which is just movie magic, and it could do a whole bunch of things. And then it accidentally, through the movie, opened up a portal to actual hell, which brought this demon, and then he shot him with some kind of magic, and it became his actual skin.
Yeah, he couldn't take it off. Yeah. David Cassidy, I think his name was, right? Or Ted Cassidy or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, this was I love the design. I love the way he looked. And it was like he was like a fun swashbuckling character. Does not look like a Kirby character. I just
honestly, it is a swashbuckling character because he's an actor. So he's basically a fun kind of character, kind of like Blue Beetle, but a little more. I don't know. We'll just say anchored in the DC universe. I always thought Blue Beetle was some, because he comes from outside the DC core originally.
Yeah, he was fun. And it's funny that you talked about Blue Beetle. Well, first off, they both say blue, but they were both drawn by Paris Cullins. He was doing 2 comics a month, Blue Devil and Blue Beetle, and they both tanked when Paris Cullins stopped. The sales cut when Paris left. He's a good artist. I think he's still working somewhere. I think he teaches art. A lot of comments. Tyler Perry. I can skip Tyler Perry comments. I just don't like that guy. Don't tell Alex Curzan that he's deaf and wheelchair people. I know. Why would you have a wheelchair? You saw the next generation. They fix Worf's spine. You know what I mean? They did super nano surgery on Worf, fixed his spine. Why would anybody be in a wheelchair? Yeah. An alien species. Yeah. Why would there be blacks, Russians in on the Earth in the next generation? Are there still nation states, or are they one big country? That's one thing I don't know. How do you think Richard Corbin would have handled Conan the Barbarian? Oh, RJ, are there any Richard Corbin issues of Conan the Barbarian?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Because he would have been perfect. I know he did Den, which was like that big bold barbarian character for heavy metal. I know he did barbarian style stuff, but I don't know if he ever did Conan. Oh man, that's a missed opportunity. Yep, no money. And they brought back gold pressed platinum for the Deep Space Nine because they realized without money there was no like crime, and crime is just good for intrigue and stories. Half the voice actors and gargoyles were Star Trek. You're right. The only Blue Devil I read was when he was in Crisis on Infinite Earths among the other heroes. You read Crisis on Infinite Earths, right?
I don't think Blue Devil was actually in Crisis. He might have been in one of the later Crisis.
He wasn't a big, but he was on the satellite. You know what I mean? There was a lot of characters, like John Constantine was on the satellite, but he didn't do anything. And then they, in the Blue Devil series, they had like the Red Skies and stuff like that. But he was tangentially involved. What you got here? Oh, this is a good one.
This is a graphic novel, oversized graphic novel, and it's Mike Mignola. Beautiful, beautiful book.
Yeah, I remember I couldn't stand Mike Mignola's art back then. It wasn't until Hellboy that I started to appreciate it. I was like, this guy's so boxy, but now I love it.
He does Mephisto really good.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Mignola does demons and devils and witches and stuff really, really moody, really atmospheric. I gotta break this out. I forgot about this. Yeah, Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange. I'm surprised they don't have more stories together, being that they're both sorcerers. Funny thing about the Blue Devil CW Swamp Thing show was they got the budget for the show. They hired all the actors, they made the suit and everything like that, and they did a phenomenal, I think, season 1. And they're like, okay. And they're like, no, that was the budget for the entire show. That was like 3 seasons. And they're like, oh, we spent all the money. So like they canceled it because they spent too much money. They allocated 3 years worth of money in 1 season or 2 seasons or something like that. So I'm pissed. I was liking it. I wanted to see where it was going. DC needs to do an omnibus of Len Wein, Paris Color, Blue Beetle. Yes, they do. They do. Did you read? Oh, you said you didn't really like the Blue Beetle series?
Oh, I had a lot of Blue Beetle. I just thought that there was always something off about the character until he got into JLA.
I've seen cartoons and read books made in the Soviet Union. They're much better than the current woke propaganda. You know what's funny, RJ? Maybe you know better than me, but you talk to people from China and Soviet Union. Like I had a partner at work that was he came to America in the mid 80s. He fled Soviet Russia, and he was just like, the difference between America and the Soviet Union is we know the news is fake. You guys actually think this is the truth. He goes, you turn on the news in Russia, it's like, yeah, there was a bank robbery on 5th Street. There was a car accident. He goes, all the little news is true, just like here. He goes, but the spin and all the politicians, because we knew it was fake. They were lying to our face, and they knew that we knew that they knew. He goes, but you guys in America, you got propaganda. You just don't realize it's propaganda. And I got to say, I don't believe anything since COVID.
Oh yeah. I was just visiting my mother tonight, and she had the news on because she watches what is it, Tom Yames? I don't know, what is it, ABC or something like that. And the stories are just ridiculous. I just shake my head, and it's got a spin. Everything's got a spin on it, because I actually see these things and go and watch the news or the actual videos and all these kinds of things, like shaking my head that people actually still believe this. But I think the mainstream is dying at the very least.
Yep. I agree. Classy TV says, I can't even enjoy science fiction, fantasy, and TV. I'm like an old curmudgeon. Like, what they just announced. Somebody asked me, what do you think about this new X-Files they're launching? I'm like, don't care. I'm not going to watch it. It's made in 2025. It's going to be bad. Why are you even talking about it? It's going to be garbage. Just rewatch the old ones, buy a book you've never read, buy some comics that you never read. Jewel is pretty hardcore. There's only the original Star Trek and the animated series. If he doesn't hear William Shatner's voice coming out of his screen, that ain't Star Trek. I gotta admire that. That's a good comic. Love Mike Mignola. Do you get any Hellboy stuff, new stuff, RJ?
No, I haven't got any new stuff in a while.
Yeah, I still get anything Hellboy related. I love how the cartoon made those Kazinti's Human War novels part of the Star Trek. Yeah, the Lion People. Yeah, that kind of bothered me as a kid, because we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I made up a lion race of people, and then my friend Carl went Kazinti, and I thought he was just giving me a name, so I called them Kazinti, and then I found out that they were like an already established thing, and I just got so mad. I thought they were mine, but they weren't. RJ, have you seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Oh yeah, I watched the entire. I used to be that guy who would, from the very beginning of VCRs, I would just tape Star Trek off the television. I had the original series, I had all Next Generation, I had all Voyager, I had all Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I had I refused to watch Star Trek The Next Generation for years because I loved the original series so much. And then I finally broke down and watched it. And then me and my wife, maybe like 2 years ago, every night we would have dinner and we watched Star Trek, and we watched it all in order. And I really, really enjoyed it. So then we started watching Deep Space Nine. And I went one season and 2 episodes, and we were done. I can't stand it. Like, I know everybody says it gets better, but none of the characters are likable. They're all detestable. Dr. Bashir is hitting on his patients. The commander is an arrogant jerk. His son's a jerk. The women on the show are like nasty, and Colomini's just. I want to strangle his wife. Like, why are they married? The transporter chief and the Asian woman. She clearly detests him. It's just so. And then what's like, Odo is the only character that I actually like, because at least he's a good guy. Yeah.
I was just thinking about that series the other day. Wow. We were talking about this online, Kazar the Savage. I mean, on X, you and I, because I posted one of the covers.
The costume for Swamp Thing in that show. Yes, the budget was great, and then they realized that they spent all the money. Yes, the woman who played Abby was absolutely gorgeous. I agree with you. Everybody, it had like the production value of a movie every episode, and I got to see. I remember not finishing it, but really liking it. Deep Space Nine is the beginning and the end of Roddenberry's utopian vision for this universe. The thing about Utopia is there's no tension and there's no drama, so there's no storytelling. If everything's perfect, maybe it's perfect on Earth, so they have to go out. Yeah, I
get a little bit political here for a second. I was thinking about Deep Space Nine just today when I was out shoveling snow, and there's a really interesting episode where I can't remember. It's Quark's son or something like that. One of the Ferengi. And it's one of the later seasons. Basically, he's saying to somebody, I can't remember who he's saying, okay, humans are great when they're comfortable, when they have their sonic showers and their bellies are full and everything else. But once you take all those things away from them, they're as mean and nasty and savage as any Klingon or Bolian or anything else. And I was actually thinking to myself, you know, that might actually be more true about, let's just say, European people right now. That's European people right now. You know, they're comfortable and they're great when they're comfortable and they want to be liberal and all these kind of stuff. But you push them too far, you're going to see nastiness like you've never seen for the last 100 years.
That's everybody. Why are we like? I mean, I'm going to parse my words, but why are we up in arms? Why are we up? Because things aren't that bad. Like, we're finding out that our leaders are cannibals. You know what I mean? Like, we found out about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky back in the 90s, and we were like horrified and like annoyed and embarrassed. Now we're finding out about all this cannibalism and whatever. I'm parsing my words. Why are we fighting? Because we got cartoons, the food is good, McDonald's cheeseburgers are plentiful, we got air conditioning. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If we were peasants in the Middle Ages, what do we got to lose? I'm going to be dead in 2 years anyway. I might as well overthrow the kingdom. You know, you're right. I think we're too comfortable. We're too complacent. Yeah. I totally agree. And back to Kazar. This was a better series than it needed to be. This was written by legendary horror writer Bruce Jones. The only thing that like bothered me is the continuity. The continuity of the Savage Land was always fluid in Marvel Comics. Like, there was the Savage Land that I remember in the second issue, Kazar left the Savage Land and went to Pangea, which was even bigger. And it was like a whole unexplored region of the Savage Land. Like, they didn't need that. They could have just kept that as the Savage Land. But it was so good. And then of course he went back to New York and everything like this particular issue. But yeah,
and the series that was before this one, which is in the 70s, because this is 82. But that's number 50 in 82. But anyways, the 70s series that was before that, I was just, I don't know, I poked you on X. I don't know if you understood what I meant, but they have flying sharks in the Savage Land that they use as mounts.
Yeah.
So if you want something bizarre beyond belief, go read Kazar.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I went through a phase about 2 or 3 years ago where I read a whole bunch of Jungle comics, and I reread this series. It was really good. Bruce Jones is a really good writer. Think about Deep Space Nine's characters grow as the show progresses. Yeah, like the Star Trek: The Next Generation. It took like a season or two to get its founding too, but I was already invested because I had seen other episodes out of order. You know what I mean? So I knew it was going to get good. But Deep Space Nine, I don't know. The pilot episode of Deep Space Nine is one of the worst episodes of TV ever made. Watch it now. It's laughably bad. None of those shows exist. Yeah, we're trying to trick you. That's how I feel about Star Wars. There's only 3 Star Wars movies. There's no Mandalorians and, Alderons or whatever the names of these shows are. They don't exist. That episode even had the Mexican drug lord for Breaking Bad who was collecting Jem'Hadar tubes as scalp trophies. I don't know who these people are yet. They didn't show up in but I do. I love that episode of Next Generation. There are 4 lights. That is such a. There's a couple of episodes of Next Generation that I think like are just good because they explain something that needs to be the why can't I think of it? The drum trial episode. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not off the top of my head, but I watched them all.
When the woman was going to try, I forget who it was, but the whole purpose of the trial was it was like a struggle session to get people to just condemn an innocent person. They all knew he was innocent, because they all gathered around the drum in on the ship. It was an old naval tactic just to punish a troublemaker or somebody asking questions or something like that. That was a great episode. And then the other one is there are 4 lights, how you could just torture somebody into admitting the what's not true. So, every time I see a picture of like that man who pretends to be a woman in Congress, I always just comment there are 4 lights. Yeah, don't forget he started to admit that he started to believe there were 5 lights in the end. Yeah, yeah, that's the whole point of it. Is you could torture and punish people until their mind snaps and they'll believe whatever they're told. Yeah, which means Picard. Yeah, another day or two he would have broke absolutely, and then they just hand him back the ship. You're in command now. No therapy. No leave of absence. Just go back to report to the ship. She just doctor just takes that little glowing thing. Boop, 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 boop. You're fine. Go back. You're in charge again. There we go. Any other comics?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a good cover for one. Just give me a minute here.
Sure.
What about you? What obscure series?
I'm looking for a good one too.
DC's cover gallery is really annoying me. Let's see.
Okay, let's see if I can find the issue that I'm thinking of. Oh my God. There we go. It came right up. Oh, okay. That's the. I thought you changed it. So, I don't know. Does anybody have this? Supervillain team up.
Oh, it's John Byrne stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah. This was somebody mentioned Champions. I think it was Vaz. The original Champions was really bad. The first couple of issues were really bad, but then John Byrne and I think Chris Claremont took it over, and it got good, but it was too late. It was too little, too late, and it got canceled. But they were in the middle of a story, so they finished the story in this issue. And this issue, Doctor Doom rules the world. It's one of those things you just have to forget about, because Doctor Doom releases a gas into the atmosphere that robs everybody on Earth of their free will. And they just accept Doctor Doom as the ruler. And then Doctor Doom is bored, so he terminates the gas. He's, you know what I mean? So somewhere there's containers of this mind-sapping drug, But Doctor Doom, he got everything he wanted, and there was no fun in it.
I'm trying to get there's some really good, I won't say they're the best comics in the world, but they have some spectacular covers. But Secret Origins from DC.
Yes.
So I remember Secret Origin 15, which is Deadman and the Spectre. Stuff like that. That's really good. Although I can't find a really good cover for that. Although, again, that led into the Spectre series, which came after that, which, again, don't have anything but eBay popping up for that one either. But those are some good series. I really like the Spectre.
George Morales brings up something about like Riker. When they went to the war and then they gave Riker his own command, and they had I forget the name of the captain who was all by the book and nobody liked him. I forget his name. But after that, there was no reason for Riker to come back and be second command. Like for purposes of character growth, Riker gets his own ship. So, you know what I mean? But because Riker is always second command, he came back. And to me, that diminished the character of Riker. First off, I didn't like Riker because Captain Kirk always got a bad reputation for hitting on the ladies. But Captain Kirk never hit on ladies that he was, had authority over. That was the whole point of the yeoman. Because Kirk was like, whoever assigned me a female yeoman, I'm going to kick his butt. You know what I mean? But the second episode, Splinter of a Mind's Eye, that was all about Kirk and Dr. Noel. They had a relationship that Kirk broke up. They had feelings for each other. Kirk really liked her, but he was just like, you're on my ship. I can't do this. So she transferred away because it was too difficult. But they liked, and Kirk was like, I can't do this. So that was the only time, and that was the one time he had relations with a subordinate, and he realized it was inappropriate. Kirk was a good guy. He did the right thing. Riker would go to 10 forward and hit on his own crew members. I thought that was like, when my wife and I rewatched Next Generation, I was just like, that's the end of Riker as far as I'm concerned, you know. And Captain Kirk gets the bad reputation. Captain Kirk was with all the alien women, but not subordinates, whereas Riker was hitting on subordinates, and then Bashir was hitting on patients. Oh God, I can't get over that. But anyway, Riker, once he became a captain of his own ship, he kind of like, I'm going to go back and be under Picard again. You know, it diminished the character for me. Riker is a cool name, but that show doesn't exist. I got to admire your stick-to-itiveness. I just looked. Blue Devil was in 3 pages of issue 9 of Crisis Infinite Earth. He was on a lounge chair on a beach, got recruited by Green Lantern, and then vanished in a warp 3 pages later. Short part. Okay. I didn't say he had a big part. I said he was in it. Did you read those supervillain team-ups?
Some of them. I don't have very many of those. I have probably half a dozen.
Yeah, I think there's 15 of them altogether. There was some fun comics. Come on, who wouldn't want to hit on a green skin Orion slave girl? You know, but that was just it. Like, Kirk didn't. You know what I mean? Kirk gets a bad reputation, but that woman was a slave. So Kirk, he admired her. He was tempted by her. You know, the Yvonne DiCarlo, right? Not Yvonne DiCarlo. The one who played Batgirl. But he didn't do anything with her. Kirk was very appropriate. And even Pike in the first, you know, he was tempted by her, but he didn't because they were slaves, you know. Who knows? And then Riker's going into the holodeck and being a creep in the holodeck all the time. It's like, ugh. Would you want to be the guy who has to mop the holodeck after Riker? It's like, oh, here we go. This was a fun series. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about Hex earlier, Jonah Hex, but this
Yvonne
is when he goes
Craig.
into the future. This is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Cowboy Hex fighting like cybernetic robots and zombies in the future. Yeah, this was a fun series.
And of
If
course,
I
you got
remember-
your sidekick partner who's wearing basically a bikini.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Well, you know, gotta sell the comic somehow. Although if you read those Jonah Hexes, the women didn't mind his disfigured face. He was very popular with the ladies. He was married like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I can't recommend Jonah Hex enough. It is so good.
I think that's, well, I can't believe they actually, I didn't see the movie that they made for it, but the fact that he's a Confederate soldier, I don't know about them ever doing anything with him ever again.
Yeah, I know. He's a Confederate soldier. And then the Jimmy Palmiotti one, he's like, I'm wearing this uniform to punish myself for doing the wrong. It's like, shut up. That's not Hex. Hex fought for what he thought was right. You know, I'm reading this for the first time, the G.I. Joe series. This is issue 4. This is my next one. I'm really liking it. I never read these military comics as a kid because I was like, it's made up for stupid toy and it's military, you know. But I'm really liking them. I can get these cheap now, and they're so good.
I never really liked the G.I. Joe comics until it got into, what the heck was it? The creation of Serpentor, which is later on in the series, almost near the end. When I started reading it at that point, I went back and bought earlier issues and started reading it after that because I really liked the creation of Serpentor, because basically they had they were going all over the entire earth to get the DNA off of great historical military leaders like Napoleon and Hitler and a whole bunch of other people that they could find in order to genetically create this perfect military strategist to control the Cobra, basically.
I didn't know that. So he's like a created being of all the leader. That's an interesting. It's like a supervillain creation.
Yeah, because in the storyline, if I remember correctly, so they're going around stealing all these tombs, and G.I. Joe's trying to figure out what the heck are they doing, because they can't figure out why they're robbing, museums and stuff like that, because it's not something that Cobra usually does.
That's interesting. I'll get up to it eventually. Speaking of Star Trek, does anyone remember? I never watched Babylon 5. Was it good?
I've never watched it either.
Yeah, the movie stunk. and then they gave Hex superpowers. He could talk to the dead and stuff like that. Yeah, why do you take a character then change the character? Just make another character. I would recommend the Vertigo Jonah Hex series from the 90s written by Joe Len. Yes, it was pure cowboys. Absolutely. Those were the first Jonah Hex stories that I read because I know RJ wasn't a fan of Vertigo, but I was getting everything by Vertigo. And I was like, oh, cowboys. But it was really, really good.
They're rebooting it, John.
They're rebooting Vertigo?
Yep.
Yes. I always wanted to see all my favorite DC characters as lesbians.
Yeah. It's basically what I said to myself.
Julius Caesar, Vlad Tepes, Attila the Hun, and Genghis Khan. That was Serpentor?
Yes. Napoleon was in there too.
Napoleon. I did not know that. Did not know that. Jonah Hex was also. Oh, he was? Wow. Did he have the Confederate uniform? Wow. I'm surprised. Let's see if I can find any more comics. But this is more supervillain team. Of course it's not working. Or is it? No. Supervillain team up #1. It's just a great cover. But why isn't it loading? Let's see if this will load. Okay, so I could show this. Such a great cover. It's so small. Can I make it bigger? No. Could everybody see that? Supervillain team up #1. I think that's Rich Buckler. I think he just had a Western cowboy off. Yeah, I'd be really surprised if they gave him the Confederate soldier. I read the original Rawhide Kid, not the super gay one. That was like the beginning of the end of Marvel for me. In the cartoon, they tried to get Sun Tzu's DNA but failed, so they were going to replace it with Sergeant Slaughter. That's funny. That's funny. Do you have any like an old series that you champion that you really liked?
Old series? Let me think on that one.
He says he was wearing the Confederate gray. Okay. Did they mention that he was a Confederate soldier, or did they just give him the uniform and not tell people? I'm trying to think if there's like old series that nobody remembers. Did you ever read a series called Hypernauts?
No, I don't know. I don't think so, but
I'll find an issue of Hypernauts. But it was Abbott and Lenning. For a while, they were a writing team. Okay, and it was basically it was obviously an homage to the Legion of Superheroes. That's why I thought you would know it. Oh, geez, why? It's like everything but the comic coming up here. But it was a 12-issue series, and it was really, really good. It's not showing up. There was a TV series, everything but the. Yeah. Oh well. Or am I getting the name wrong? Because what I'm seeing is cartoons and stuff. Oh well, I'm probably getting the name wrong.
I shared one there if you want to put it up on screen,
Okay,
which is the graphic novel miniseries for Adam Strange.
Yeah,
that was really good.
Yeah, I like this character. This was like DC's bridge between superheroes and sci-fi. He was like a Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, but almost right. This was the character that he would spend time on the planet Ran, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would get hit by lasers that would transport them, and then they would wear off, and he would come back to Earth. So it was like a ripoff of John Carter, Warlord of Mars, but he would always come back to Earth and then have to find out where the next ray is going to hit. It was cool. I like the series.
They reprinted it, I think, in 2003, but the original series in 1990. It's a miniseries.
Yeah, my first introduction to him, believe it or not, was Alan Moore Swamp Thing met him. And I was like, oh, I like this character. I've always seen him around, but again, it was science fiction, and I didn't want science fiction comics. I wanted superhero comics. And then I went back and I actually got a bunch of back issues of him. Adam Strange. Yeah, it was like a, what is that Japanese word for Fantasyland?
Isekai.
Yeah, it was like an isekai. Would you say?
Oh yeah, it's basically, you John Carter basically, but he's a DC character, so that's what they made it as.
Yeah, well, I'm still trying to find this freaking comic, and I must have the wrong name. It must not be Hypernuts. Oh well, I'll never find it then. But it was a real interesting series. Basically, it was Legion of Superheroes, but I guess it was like a too daring of a story for DC to use because characters died. Yeah, they did a 12-issue Tom King series that I was like, I guess I don't like Adam Strange anymore. Because Alan Moore, I know you don't like Alan Moore, but at least Alan Moore had it so that Alana and Adam Strange were like the greatest couple. Like when she left back to go to Earth against his will, she was like inconsolable, and he would literally climb mountains to get back to her. And then Tom King has it where she can't stand the sight of him. It's just like, Tom King he's the one that was in the CIA, right? So you never ex-CIA. He's just demoralizing the youth by writing this crap. I will not touch a Tom King comic. I'm still mad because your boy Zach got me to buy like 3 or 4 issues of Mr. Miracle. He's like, oh, it's so good. It's going to be great. And then around the 5th issue, he's like, oh my God, it's terrible. So I'm like, thanks a lot. I got like 6 issues. But he ain't ex-CIA. He's still getting paid from the CIA, if you ask me. Yeah, he's doing all his psy-ops through comics now.
You talking about old series that I really love is Turok, Son of Stone. We talked about this last week.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an American Indian, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't remember. It's him and he has a sidekick. Both of them do, and they live in this world of dinosaurs. Again, it was something I read as a kid because we got them passed down to us.
The Tom King Mr. Miracle. Did it end well, Vaz? Did you read the ending of it? Because I have like the first 6 issues of it. I just haven't read it yet because I just saw the descriptions of what actually happened on it. And I was just like, nah. Because to me, Mr. Miracle and Big Barter were like the happiest couple in comics. And I wanted them to stay the happiest couple in comics. And like everything Tom King touches, the wives end up like disgusted by their husbands. And it's like, maybe your wife doesn't like you, Tom King, but the rest of us want to see you about happy. It was depressing until the end. So it pulled itself out. You know what I'm reading right now? Speaking of wives who are disgusted with their husbands, do you ever read the Scarlet Pimpernel?
I never read any of them. I watched the old movies, the black and white movies.
Yeah, I never watched the movies because I didn't know what a pimpernel meant. It's apparently a red English flower, and I'm reading the book because it's like the first superhero book. Like he has a secret identity. He's a dandy. He's a fop, but and it's really sad because I figured out. I think I know what's going on, but like William Blakely is the Scarlet Pimpernel, and he's physically strong. He's handsome. He's charming, and he's filthy rich. And he falls in love with Marguerite, and they get married. And then she tells him how she went before this French tribunal, and they basically got her to admit to something just through like trickery, what's the word when people use logic tricks to get you to trip up? And she got somebody guillotined. And she said, he lost all respect for me. And it's really sad. But that's when he adopted the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel to get back at them. You know what I mean? So she's like kind of disgusted with him because he's just like a waste of life dandy now, and she thinks she despises him, and she, you know what I mean? that's his way of protecting her, because if he gets arrested, she'll get beheaded also. It's really good. I really like sophistry. There you go. I couldn't think of the word. Thank you.
Really like Cosmic Odyssey. We talked about this too. That's a really good prestige format graphic novels 4-issue series, I think it was.
Yes, this was Jim Starlin, right?
Yeah, Mike Mignola and Jim Starlin, if I remember.
I got to reread this because you guys were talking about stuff that I don't remember. I don't even want to go to the next comment.
Yep, Jim Starlin, Mike Mignola, John Workman does the lettering.
Yeah. Have you seen that that clip that's going around Twitter? It's Chris Evans from Red Letter Media, and he's talking to the other guy whose name I can't remember, but he's talking to him about Spider-Man comics. And he goes, and in Spider-Man 400, Aunt May's on her deathbed, and Peter Parker confesses that he's Spider-Man, and Aunt May says, I've known for a whole, but I didn't want you to be worried or whatever, and I just played along with it because you never told me, but I'm proud of you. You've always done the right thing. And then Aunt May passes, and he says it was a really good ending. He goes, but it was an actor created by the Green Goblin, and it was all a trick, blah, blah, blah. You know, and he goes, and then Peter Parker and Mary Jane get married, and they have this wonderful marriage, but then the devil comes and tricks him out of the wedding, and then he just turns to the camera and goes, comic books are shit. You know, and I just was cracking up laughing because he goes, and then he goes, F you, Joe Quesada. He goes, you ruined Spider-Man. And it's been going around. And he's absolutely right. You know,
Yep.
like you got to respect what other people did. Like, I'm of the opinion of like Misery, you know, that like, no, she was dead. She was being buried. That's where your next book has to start. You know, like you got to respect, even if it's bad, you got to respect what other people did. So like if somebody dies, they got to be dead. Things like that. There's got to be permanence in comics. Otherwise, so my point is don't do these grand schemes unless you're ready to deal with the consequences.
One of the videos I did like 5-6 years ago was Patient Zero for Woke Comics, and that was Joe Quesada.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Joe Quesada is Patient Zero. You're absolutely right. He hired Bendis. John is going to start blocking me. No, I don't know why you'd say that. What are you doing? Are you doing anything that I don't notice? You're fine. Don't worry about it. The only time I block people is when they start insulting my guests or other chat people. You know what I mean? Nobody comes here to be insulted. They come here to talk about comic books. But other than that, correct me. I'm always wrong. Marvel, it sits, not comics. I don't know if that's a typo. I don't understand. Speaking of Westerns, do you think spaghetti Westerns and what aspects don't fit the American perspective? The sinister part of me thinks Westerns aren't going to come back because Westerns is all about the individual solving their own problems. And the powers that be don't want that. So maybe now I do think Hollywood's declining in their influence. And I think with all of these computers and stuff like that, I think people are going to be able to make good quality movies cheaply. I'm not saying AI, but like, you know, cameras and stuff like that are cheaper now. So I think the average person will make Westerns, but I think Hollywood won't unless they see it's a big moneymaker. Don't forget The Wedding of Kitty and Colossus. That was also yeah. And the same with Catwoman and Batman. Anything you want to talk about, RJ? I know I talked too much tonight.
I'm trying to find another book right here that I'm thinking of. I can't remember the title for it, so I'm having to search a little bit. But as a spaghetti westerns, yeah. What the heck was the speech that what was the name that just gave to the UN talking about cowboys originally came from Spain? So you know you gotta take the say romance cultures and infuse them back into Western. So I think that's what spaghetti Westerns did a little bit. You might say that some of them went overboard with it, but I don't think it's something completely foreign to the concept.
If we deport enough heart seller America, I don't know what that means, but I'm ready for more Westerns. I was all excited that like historical and mythological movies when we come back. But then I see what they're doing with the Odyssey, and I'm like, not yet, not yet. Maybe in another couple of years. Uh, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are patient zero for woke comics. I know what you're trying to say, but they did it with like a. I don't think they smashed you over the head. You know, they had some talent and subtlety, and the characters had like, you know, real issues and everything. And they didn't preach to you.
I would say that if the opposite perspective sold better, they would have went with that. Let's put it that way. Yeah. They were businessmen more than anything else.
They were businessmen, and they were trying to do what they thought was popular rather than trying to educate and preach. But I do think Stan Lee maybe a little bit of educate and preach, but Jack Kirby wanted to make money. Oh, it's meant to be a joke, but okay. Yeah, I didn't get like you're cool. Yeah, I didn't notice anything. Well, Westerns are coming back. Look at Yellowstone. Yes. 19. Yeah, you're right. I gotta watch. Is it a good show? I think that blonde woman in Yellowstone is so beautiful. I just think she's got like a classic real woman look. Like Total Eclipse. Oh my God.
Anybody wants some horror as well as some superheroes and some horror mixed together in an 80s mashup with some interesting art.
Yes, this was Total Eclipse's answer to A Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it was written by Marv Wolfman. Yeah. Did I lose you, RJ? Oh, I think we lost RJ. I just heard a robot out. This was like a 4 or 5 issue thick series, Total Eclipse. Yeah, so this was a company-wide crossover by Eclipse Comics. For those of you who don't know Eclipse Comics, they were super important. I think it was Dean Mulaney and Kate Ironwood. They were a Cat Ironwood. They were a married couple at the time, and they created it was direct market only, meaning it didn't go into the newsstands. It went right to comic book stores. And they created the contract that is still in use today for a creator-owned series. So as Chuck Dixon said, it was the gold standard for creator-owned series. They said it was ironclad, so that Chuck Dixon wrote a comic book adaptation of The Hobbit back in the early 80s, and other companies have since republished it. And because of the contract that was written back in 1981, he's still getting royalty checks for it. You know, it's ironclad. Heart Cell. Oh, post 1965 immigrants and their children. Oh, okay. I see what you. Okay. Do you remember Doctor Strange? The oath, that brigand villain at the beginning was epic, and he stayed dead. Yes, I remember that. That is the one that's referenced in the movie with Doctor Strange popping out in the astral plane. Yeah, please tell me that's a joke, making Peter and Kitty gay. Well, I know Kitty's bisexual now, and they claim she always was, even though she was in love with Peter and chasing guys all the time. But Peter Rasputin now, that's if you're in the X-Men, you're gay. That's it. You join the X-Men, you're gay now. Okay, you happy? You happy? Good. I don't know what to say. That just infuriated me. Technically, he was alive and thrown into a point, but functionally dead. Well, I don't know if RJ is going to come back, and I've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes, so I guess we'll call it quits. So, yeah, they don't believe reality exists yet. They don't believe in objective reality, and that's the problem. That's why they're not funny. That's why their stories aren't. RJ always says that a story is a reflection of reality, even sci-fi, even fantasy. And to be funny, like the best comedians are observers of reality. And if you don't know what reality is, you can't be funny. You can't be a good storyteller. So I'm going to wind it down now because I can't stand looking at myself in this big face right now. You know, and without RJ, there's no point of comic book team up. I hope everything's okay. Maybe the Bears finally got to him. Obviously, he was gay, anti-gun message, but the part where he turns the gun into fireflies was cool. Krakoa era ruined the X-Men. And to say there's more Krakoa than, yeah, I know. It's a shame. Good night, everyone. I hope the rest of your week is good. Yep, classy to me. This will be the last comment. So don't comment anymore. This will be the last comment. I also thought Kitty had a thing for guys named Peter. You had OG Peter Rasputin, then Peter Wisdom, Peter Parker, then Peter Quill. Yeah, and Peter Wisdom was real creepy because that was Warren Ellis's self-insert. So here we have 50-year-old Warren Ellis making an insert character and then dating the youngest member of the X-Men. I don't know. I find that to be really, really creepy. But thanks a lot, everybody. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'm streaming. RJ always makes a Saturday stream. We'll see RJ next Wednesday. For me, if you're interested, Friday nights I do a comic book team up. On Friday, I'm getting sleepy. On Friday nights, I do It's Clobbering Time. Usually Marcus Kelligrew and Tony, who's in the chat, come in. But it's an open invite. Anybody could come in. And we're going to talk about heroes who turned villains. That should be kind of fun. All right. So I'll see you, everybody. Goodbye, kids.